introducing yourselves. You already know the drill. This is beautiful. Hello from Phoenix, Portugal. I love the variety over here on Mindvalley. It's so beautiful. So hello, everyone. And welcome, my friends, to day 2 already, where we will be discussing how cravings control you. I also want to welcome you again with a humongous hug because we're going to be on a journey together today. And just to do a little fun and easy warm-up while doing this again, because there are more people joining, while everyone is connecting, please let me know in the chat where you're connecting from and which part of the world you're in. And I challenge you, let Eric know in the chat, be very, very honest. What do you crave most? Is it cookies? Is it chips? Is it pizza? Let's see. Carbs, chips, sweets, chocolate. Eric, I hope you're seeing this. We have to address all of this today. Chocolate, sweets, sugar. This is quite a bunch of cravings over here. I already know 4 of mine, so don't worry about that. Okay, so guys, just to start with, I know life would be so much easier if we were just tempted to crave the salads or the broccoli instead of junk food. But unfortunately, life is a daily struggle to keep ourselves back from the salty French fries and the cakes we're exposed to. So that's why we have Eric today with us to teach you how to get to the balance. So just a few things to get us set up for this transformation. Number 1, quick logistics side before we jump in. You're going to be training with Eric. So this experience is deeply transformational, exciting. And one thing you have to know is that once our speaker is on stage, he's going to be training you on a few incredible topics. So be prepared to take notes as crazy, just as if you're going to teach somebody else. So going on to number 2, we will be doing a giveaway in the last 3 days of the challenge. And the more you will be active in the group, the more chances you have of winning the giveaway. And the prizes we will award are 1 Mindvalley certification program of your choice, $3,000 value, 1 year of Mindvalley membership pro, $799 value, 1 year of Mindvalley membership, $499. And going further to number 3, every day is going to be a lesson with definitely practical activities, just as we did yesterday. At the end of it, we're going to give a homework, and they're going to be supported by a community that will be hosted on a Facebook group. Number 4, there is no point in watching the lessons and not doing the homework or interacting in the community, because there is no greatness without action, and you aren't going to achieve results in this challenge without fully committing yourselves to make a change. Number 5, and the most important one I can say, dedicate time and focus and playful out. Don't come here 50%. If this sounds good, you already know the drill, put a yes in the chat. And let's also give a warm welcome to Eric to introduce you deeply to the session. So this being said, Eric, the stage is all yours.
Hey, I'm glad to be back. I'm really glad to be back. And there are some definitely powerful and interesting cravings in here. I am very happy to see that because it means that we've got the right people, humans. All right. So yesterday we talked a lot about cravings, and we talked about inserting a step inside cravings. We took a look and said we can listen to the craving, but then what we want to recognize is that the craving probably represents a need, but that we think we can satisfy it with a want. And what we've said is, what if we just reverse things a little bit? What if we identified the need and dealt with the need first? And then if we still wanted to deal with the want, we could. So an example of that might be that somebody is craving some, cookies or ice cream or something like that. And they realize what they're really feeling is a sense of emptiness. They're feeling a sense of disconnection, which, by the way, if it isn't, these days is it's the last 2 years have been dedicated to separation and emptiness and being apart from people. And so it's absolutely normal that somebody might have those feelings. But what we're going to suggest from our homework yesterday is that instead of immediately going to the cookies or the ice cream or the whatever that thing is, or chocolate, what we're instead going to do is insert the need first. We're going to get some connection. We're going to go out and get a hug, maybe go to a spa and get a massage, spend some time with some friends, get on the phone, have a loving conversation. There's any number of ways to increase your level of connection. And then what you want to do is pay attention to how that affected your craving. Did it reduce it? Did it magnify it? Did it intensify it? Did it change it at all? And then you might find that at times you no longer feel like you need the thing that you had the craving for. So that's one way to start to get ourselves back under control relative to cravings. But now let's dive back in again and review what cravings really are. Remember what I said. They're basically an outdated request. They're a request from your great-great-great-great-grandfather, great-great-great-great-grandmother who said, I want you to go get these things. And so the requests are very general and they're very outdated, and they don't really work in our modern society because, of course, we're now in a place where our cravings are really taking advantage of us. Or if I'm really more, I suppose, direct and honest about that, it's a bit more like this. There are people taking advantage of our cravings. This is a very, very important thing to recognize. I would like to know in the chat, how many of you have found that your craving for chocolate goes up during Easter, during the time that we know as Easter? How many find that your chocolate craving goes up during Easter? Tell me, like, yeah, there you go. And if you want to tell me what kinds of chocolate, I'm really curious about that too. What kind of chocolate? Yeah, Cadbury's eggs. Yep. And not chocolate, but wine, some people say. But it seems like a lot of chocolate, mini eggs, Easter eggs, dark chocolate, all kinds of. It seems like you have more types of chocolate than I even know exists. Now, I want to talk about hijacking. I want to talk about hijacking, and I'm not talking about, hijacking planes, buses, and cars and stuff. I'm talking about hijacking your mind. And so Easter, you might remember that Easter is actually the sequel. The original story is Christmas. You might remember there was a story about the pregnancy, and there was some question about the origins of the pregnancy. And then there was the baby that was born. You might remember in the manger, with the shepherds. And then the three wise men came, and the three wise men, what did they bring? Does anybody remember what they brought? Did they bring dark chocolate, candy canes, and donuts? No, they brought frankincense, myrrh, and gold. That's what they brought. That's what they brought according to the story. They brought frankincense, myrrh, and gold. But now somewhere along the line, someone hijacked Christmas and turned it into a holiday of candy canes and pie and ice cream and Christmas cake and Coca-Cola, right? Like, isn't that what really happened? In fact, even Santa Claus is ultimately a hijacked personality by Coca-Cola. Notice, by the way, the color of Santa. You think that's a coincidence? No, it's not. Now, hold on a second now. Hold on. Here's what's going on. They hijack Christmas. Well, if they're going to hijack Christmas, they may as well hijack the sequel as well. And so what do? They hijacked Easter. Now, I went to an Anglican school, so I went through the studies of this quite a lot. I don't consider myself a very religious person, but I'm aware. And so I'm aware that the story talks about the splitting and sharing of bread, and it talks about fishing, and it talks about fish, and it talks about even wine. But I don't recall chocolate being in there ever once. If any of you can send me a screenshot of any version of the New Testament that's got chocolate in there about during Easter, then I'll feel differently about it. But as it stands right now, I don't think anybody can send me that screenshot, not without Photoshop. And the point is that somewhere along the line, someone hijacked it. They hijacked it. And then they hijacked Valentine's Day. I mean, what does chocolate have to do with love? Oh, I love you so much. Here's a box of diabetes. I don't understand. I don't understand. Here, I love you so much. I'd like to spike your blood sugar and destroy your no, I don't understand. And then even Halloween got taken over. It was never supposed to be a candy holiday. But the food industry has slowly but surely found ways of hijacking our holidays. Why holidays? Because of emotions. Holidays are a time of peak emotion. And when people have a time of peak emotion, it's easier to link things. Emotions create memories. So the food industry has been working very hard to hijack our holidays and our emotional states. So how many of you agree with me that the food industry or individual companies within the food industry have hijacked Christmas, Easter, Valentine's, Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, Ramadan, all of them? Okay, you guys agree with me. All right. Well, let's take another level, because they didn't just hijack our holidays, they hijacked our everyday emotions. Didn't they? Didn't they hijack our everyday emotions? Well, hang on. They went to birthday parties. They totally hijacked birthday parties. How many of you live in a country where it is a tradition that on somebody's birthday, the birthday person has to bring donuts to the office? Who anybody live in a country like that? I've seen this tradition. It's not everywhere. Some of you live with that one, right? You notice it. The reason I ask about that one is see, yes, 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 no, 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 yes, 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 no, 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 yes, 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 no, 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 which proves that it's not a traditional human thing. It's a cultural thing that was created by a very smart food executive. Some dude at Tim Hortons or Krispy Kreme or one of these donut chains, Dunkin' Donuts, they sat there and thought, you know what? We could create a tradition where the birthday boy or girl has to buy a box of donuts and take it to everybody. So we don't have to sell 30 individual donuts. We can just make one sale. And we're going to make one sale per person for one day. I mean, it's awesome. It's amazing. It's amazing. And by the way, I just saw somebody say, no, 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 they don't hijack Ramadan. Let me tell you something. I've been around some people practicing Ramadan, and I completely understand that it's about fasting until the sun goes down. And then I've seen some people eating some pretty fascinating traditional things to break their fast with that have not been functional food items. So every holiday, every birthday, right? But now how about even emotional states? Emotions. Come on now. I'm going to say some emotions. I want you guys to tell me the food. You guys are doctor food industry. I'm the patient. Are you guys ready? Now, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to have an emotional problem, and that's going to create cravings in me. And I need you to tell me how to solve my emotional problem. Okay, here we go. Help me solve depression. In the chat, solve depression for me. How do I solve depression? Let's see here. Chocolate, 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 ice cream, sweets, chocolate, chocolate, sweets, ice cream, cookies, chips, chocolate, chocolate, chips, ice cream, wine, desserts, chocolate. Oh, smell of flour. Yeah, probably a chocolate covered flour. Chocolate, chocolate, sweet, ice cream. All right. You guys have helped me to solve my depression. All right, my next emotional state. Here we go. Heartbreak. Just been through a horrible heartbreak going through the divorce. It's terrible. Solve my heartbreak for me. Carry on. Let's see what new things you can. Wait, look. Alcohol, chocolate, alcohol, ice cream, wine, chocolate, ice cream, wine, alcohol. Holy cow. You doctor food right here. You guys have it. Okay. Here's another emotional state. Let's see. I know. Here's one. I have just rocked it. I've been terrified of public speaking for my whole life. And then I got over it and I stood on stage in front of 500 people and I absolutely rock it and I'm feeling amazing and I feel celebratory. Help me. What should I do about my celebration? How should I celebrate? Oh, look at this. Alcohol, sparkling wine, champagne wine, alcohol, beer, more wine, pink champagne, chocolate, ice cream, peanut butter sandwiches, which that's a fascinating idea. So it seems to me like you guys have some definite ideas about what you could cure. Sex. Good call. Excellent call for celebration. But now, do you guys understand what's going on? This is not, it's consistent. They're hijacking our emotions all the time. Let me tell you right now, there is no food that solves depression. None. There are foods that distract from depression. There's no food that solves for heartbreak. Not one. There are foods that distract from heartbreak. But let me tell you something. When you use food to distract from a negative or difficult emotion, when you use food to distract from it, it's not like a painkiller. Look, I'm not a big fan of painkillers, but if you got a splitting headache and you got some work to do, maybe you want to take a painkiller, your call. But at least in that case, you've taken the painkiller and then the headache is gone, right? But here's the deal. Food is a different kind of painkiller. All it does is delay the headache until the food is gone and make it worse. So this is such an important problem. This is such an important thing to remember, that your cravings have been hijacked. Your cravings have been hijacked. Now, let's try to find out who the hijackers are. Who would like to figure out who the hijackers are? You guys in? What I want you to do is tell me brands that you crave. Brands that you crave. So you've got a craving, and for example, it's not that I crave chocolate, it's that I crave Snickers. It's not that I crave a soft drink, it's that I crave Coca-Cola or Pepsi. So what are some of the brands that you crave? Here are the hijacking drug dealers: Nutella, Godiva, Hershey, Snickers, Pizza, Lay's, Lindt, Fraser, Vanguard, Lake Champlain Chocolate, Skittles, Doritos, Cadbury's, M&M's, Kellogg's, Nestle, Snickers, Doritos, McDonald's, Kraft, Lindt, Starbucks, Galaxy, Reese's. Okay. So here's the deal. You now know who the drug dealers are. You know who's the hijacker. And we've just done something really important for every single one of you. Some of you that are into coaching, training, and speaking might even understand that we did, but here's what we just did. We opened up a filing cabinet inside your head. We open up a new filing cabinet because you see the way memories works is they're very much like file drawers. You open up, somebody says to you, name some cars. You open up the drawer and you think of the first 3-4 car manufacturers that you keep in that drawer. And right now, Taco Bell and McDonald's, Nutella, Coca-Cola have been in a drawer called quick, fast, convenient food for a lot of you. For some of you, it's been in another drawer called junk food. That's true. But suddenly we created this new drawer called drug dealing hijackers. And if you read this list and you put those people in the list, they will lose their power over you slowly but surely. See, it's really hard to eat Hershey's when you realize that they're taking your power away from you. They've positioned themselves as a generous company here to give you pleasure, but the truth is they're here to hijack your cravings and take your power away from you. And once you recognize that, and once you understand that it's true, once you see that, you can't unsee it. Nutella, there's nothing good about that. There's nothing redeemable about that. Haagen-Dazs. These people are not making their products because they love you. They're making their products because they're answering their shareholders and they're trying to figure out the way to make the biggest profit. And the way to make the biggest profit is to make food that isn't food at all, so that it doesn't cure your hunger, so that you want to eat more of it, and so that it actually amplifies your hunger. There are foods out there that are making your cravings worse than they really are. So now our next little project to brainstorm as a group, are you guys ready? Our next little project is I want you to tell me the foods that you know make you have more cravings or make you more hungry. So what are the foods that make you more hungry or make your cravings get stronger? What are those foods? Let's go through it here now. Holy cow, that's fast. Bread, Ruffles, sugar, bread, chocolate, sugar, 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 pizza, Coke, rice, rice, sugar, McDonald's, crap. One day I'm gonna have to take some rap lessons. I can turn this around. Candy, chips, soda, carbs, popcorn, chips, sugar and salt, sugar, pizza, chips and sugar, chips. I mean, guys, you know what's going on here. We just created another filing cabinet, and that filing cabinet's called Foods That Make Me Hungry. Why on earth would you ever eat a food that makes you hungry? Doesn't make any sense. Would you invest in a fund that takes your money? Would you invest in a fund that makes you poor? Would you go to a doctor that makes you sick? Actually, let me not ask that question right now. That's a different conversation for another day. But you understand the point. You understand the point. So knowing that our cravings are being hijacked, knowing that we've been fooled into believing that a bunch of foods can cure our variety of our emotional problems or what have you. What I want to do today is we're going to work on a very important principle, and that is one of the best ways to neutralize cravings is to not have the need in the first place. Okay? Somebody meme that for me. Somebody should go meme that for me. The best way to reduce your cravings is to not have the need in the first place. So let me say that to you. I want you to understand what I mean by this. If you have a need for magnesium, let's say, if you have a need for magnesium, then you're going to find that you've got hungers and cravings relative to that need. The trouble is that if your hungers and cravings have been hijacked, then you're going to try to satisfy that need through non-functional methods. For example, garbage quality chocolate. That's a problem, right? Whereas if you are topped up on your magnesium, the chances of you having that craving are reduced. Here's another one. Some of you have cravings, as I've seen in the notes here, for Hostess and Lay's potato chips. And the irony of that particular craving is that craving very often comes, funny enough, from being dehydrated. It's the strangest thing, but it's like you're dehydrated, so your body wants you to go and snack on something. So in other words, you have a craving resulting from one of your needs not being met. And that need is for water. And so if you have not met the need for water, you're going to find yourself more hungry with stronger cravings. Are you guys understanding what's happening here? Is that we can talk about the psychological process with these cravings. We talked about that yesterday. We've just talked about the fact that they can be hijacked. But one of the best ways to not let them get hijacked in the first place is to not have the need in the first place. That's a very, very important thing. Now, there's another key foundational aspect of this. And this is why diets fail so often and so routinely, and why I never want any of you to ever go on a diet again. Who's up for no to diets? Here's like hashtag no to diets. Who's up for that? Never, ever dieting again. Who never, ever wants to diet again? You guys up for this? No to diets. It's a done deal. No more of that, right? And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of reasons for no to diets, but here's one of them. One of the reasons for no to diets is that most people, when they go on a diet, they are already a little malnourished. They're already a little hungry. They're already a little malnourished, right? So now here's the thing. Here's the challenge. The challenge is if they're already a little malnourished, now they're going to go on a calorie restriction diet. Let me tell you something very important about calories. Meme this one for me if you like. The only person who should be counting calories is somebody who just has a huge addiction to numbers and can't find anything else to count. Because there's no point in counting calories. It's a pointless, endless thing. And the only person who should be restricting calories is somebody who just likes personal suffering. If you're into self-flagellation, then go ahead and restrict your calories. Not a functional way to lose weight at all. Yet the diet industry is completely built upon those principles. And so here's what happens. You take somebody who's malnourished, right? Now, let me explain what I mean by malnourished. They've been eating too much of the wrong stuff. Too much stimulant, too many stimulants, too much sugar, and they've been eating not enough of the good stuff. So they're overstimulated and undernourished. How many people know that at least maybe now and at some time in your life, you've definitely been overstimulated and undernourished? How many people say that's fair? That's a fair assessment of the world as it is today. Now, here's the thing. If you are overstimulated and undernourished, did I lose you guys? My screen suddenly froze and I don't know if I'm still with you, but I'm going to keep going because it's not frozen anymore, although you are. So if you are overstimulated and undernourished, and then somebody asks you to go on a diet, then you know what's going to happen? Your cravings are going to get multiplied. Your cravings are going to get magnified.
Hello, guys. Unfortunately, it looks like Eric is having some problems with the connection, but he will be back in a minute. So just a couple of seconds if you're patient and if you're waiting for it. Meanwhile, I'm more than happy to read maybe your takeaways from this session. Okay, so let's see. While we're waiting for Eric, let me know what are your takeaways till now. Okay, the chat is going a little bit fast. Diets are bullshit. A good one. Food that is not food. Removing the needs. That's also a good point. And I think we're having Eric back. While Eric is connecting. Okay, Eric, do you hear us?
I can hear you. My Zoom on my main station is completely crashed, so I've connected from my phone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I will reboot this and hopefully we get it back, but for now we'll stay on the phone. All right, so I think I got cut off at the point where I was talking about if somebody goes on a diet, then they started off as malnourished and overstimulated. Now we ask that malnourished person to restrict their calories even further, which means they're going to become even more malnourished. And you can imagine what that's going to do. It's going to trigger even more cravings, because there's a very important thing to remember about humans, and that is this: the hungrier you get, the more flexible your food rules become. Let me say that again. The hungrier you get, the more flexible your food rules become. And the reason for this is that it is a starvation prevention technique. In other words, imagine that you and me are out for a walk in the bush in Africa 100,000 years ago. So there we are walking along, but we haven't eaten for a few days because frankly, the rains haven't been there and the hunting's not been good and The plants aren't there. And so we're kind of struggling. None of our familiar foods are there. Well, for the first day or two, we just won't eat. That's fine. But isn't there going to come a point? Come on now. Isn't there going to come a point where you're going to say to me, hey, Eric, have you tried that plant over there? And I'm like, no, I've never tried that plant. I'm not, you go ahead, but I'm not doing that. I know Jimmy tried that one fruit that one time and Jimmy's gone. It didn't work out so well for him. So I'm not trying that plant. And then you say to me, yeah, you're right. We shouldn't try that plant. And then 2 more days later, we're both eating that plant. We got hungry enough that we're willing to try anything. Does that make sense? You guys with me on this? See, it's like the hungrier you get, the more flexible you become about what you consider to be food. So this is one of the reasons I say no to diets, because diets take hungry people and make them hungrier and then wonder why they binge. I want to know, come on, let's have a moment of honesty here. Who here has done it? You've gone on some kind of restrictive diet. You've been good for somewhere between minutes, days, weeks, maybe even longer than that. And then you binged. You overcorrected and binged. Who's done it? There, it looks like it. It looks like it's happening. So what we want to do is make sure that we go back to the principle that I've just been sharing with you. And that is this, that if your needs are being met, then it is much, much more likely that your cravings are going to be under control. You see, if your needs are not being met, then that's going to create hunger. That hunger is going to amplify, and then you're going to start craving stuff. And the hungrier you get, the more flexible that's going to become. So if you're doing pretty well, if things are good, then you're eating normal things, but all of a sudden you get even hungrier, and somebody offers you a donut. There's going to be a point potentially where you're hungry enough that a donut seems like a reasonable idea. And so what we want to do is make sure that we satisfy our needs. So let's talk about the needs really quick. Number 1 need. Tell me, guys, some of you guys have been on the immunity quest. You might know, what's your number 1 need in order of priority? Number 1 need. There it is. Air. A few people voting water. Air. A few people on the water. I'm going to go with air. And the reason that I'm going to go with air is because we can only live for minutes without air, whereas we can last for a couple of days without water. So the first one is air. So the first need to work on satisfying is appropriate levels of air, and good quality air and good deep breathing exercises. Not only will this oxygenate your body, but good, long, deep breathing also is stress reducing. And by the way, who here could use a little stress reduction at the moment? We just finished the 2-year fear pandemic, and now we're going into the World War III pandemic, and there's a fear around us all the time. And listen, I'm not here to downplay this. I am standing in solidarity with anybody who's suffering at the moment, and I'm here to help them. I'm also here to say that me suffering doesn't help them at all. And so we want to make sure that we are taking care of our air. Then the next on the list is water. We've got to make sure that we're getting hydrated properly. And I'll tell you right now, and many of you have gone through the 6 hungers with me in WildFit, you understand that the need to satisfy water. And if you take care of that, many of your food cravings will be neutralized. And remember, if there's no craving there in the beginning, then guess what can't happen? Hijacking. You get it? You understand this, is that if you don't have the craving at all, then it can't be hijacked. And that is what is so powerful and important in this. If you have the craving, then a food manufacturer can come along and hijack it. If you don't have the craving at all, can't be done, and you're safe. So then another need that we want to take care of, we talked about this yesterday, sleep. Sleep. There's a raft of research and studies out there to show that if you are malnourished from a sleep perspective, if you're not getting enough sleep, that you will have increased sugar and carbohydrate cravings. And there's an irony in that, because that's not going to help you to sleep at all. And so it'll help you feel sleepy, but it won't help you have good quality sleep. So it's very important that we get enough sleep. We talked a little bit yesterday about sleep strategies, but I just want to remind you, turn your electronic devices off 2 or 3 hours before you go to bed. Kindles are an exception. They're using natural light, but I'm talking about phones, tablets, computers, that kind of stuff with all the blue light, TVs, none of that. Also, a cooler room and a darker room. And having a nice sleep routine really helps. What I mean by that is you kind of get to a point where, like, say, in my case, about 9 o'clock, I kind of know that I'm now winding down and getting ready for sleep. I've programmed the lights in the house to dim. And then I want to get the screens off and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to eat at that point in time. And so getting yourself good
quality sleep is going to help reduce your cravings. The other thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we move our bodies. Weirdly, laziness stimulates cravings. You know, one of the reasons is that movement unlocks your metabolism. What I mean by that is that when you are facing heavy exercise, you're moving your body pretty heavily. As you're moving your body, what happens is your body starts prioritizing the burning of fat if you're moving your body in a certain way. And so you're releasing energy from within you. But if you're not moving in a way that stimulates fat burning, then you run out of blood sugar and your body starts just craving quick energy, which is sugar. So moving your body is also a great way to stimulate your metabolism to become more effective, more efficient, and help you to process your fat better. Another thing you want to do is make sure that you are well nourished. Now, this is a very important thing, and that means that it doesn't mean you got to give up all the bad stuff. It doesn't mean that at all. Now, hold on a second. There might be some feedback.
I am back. All right. I think I'm back. Can you guys just confirm that I'm back? Somebody
All
let
is
me
good, Eric. Yes, you're back.
Good deal. I'm so glad to be back. All right. So now, I'm not here to tell you can't have the chocolate anymore. I'm not that guy. I'm not here to tell you can't have wine. I'm not here to tell you can't have dairy products. I am here to say don't drink Coca-Cola, but that's a totally different thing. I'm kidding. I'm not here to make rules up for you what you can't have. I'm simply going to say to you that if you satisfy your need for nutrition, if you get your nutritional needs met, your cravings will go down. I mean, it's not tough accounting. If your body has all the things it needs, it won't crave as many things, right? Remember, it won't stop you from having emotional hunger, but what it'll do is it will make the emotional hunger less powerful. So I'm asking right now, anybody who's done WildFit, what I'm curious of is, did you have this experience, first of all, where you had cravings that completely disappeared once you started putting the good stuff in? And I'm also curious, did you have cravings that you could still feel the craving, but it was like through a layer of cotton paper, cotton wool or something? Like it was out there, but it had no pull on you. You guys can relate to this. You can see in the chat. It really, one of the key things that we do there is that we focus on helping you get your needs met. By helping you get your needs met, guess what happens? Cravings go down. Okay, so now the next thing we want to talk about is sunlight. Really important that you get good quantities of sunlight. Here's the thing. If you're not getting enough sunlight, there's a whole number of things that don't happen properly in your body, but I'm going to focus on one: vitamin D production. And so here's what's going to happen is if you're not getting enough sunlight, therefore not making enough vitamin D, your body is going to start to go, well, I better find some somewhere, and it's going to start craving food. Generally, it doesn't even know what kind of food has vitamin D in it, but it's just going to start making you hungry, even though you're not hungry. And so again, by getting yourself sunlight, you're going to find, and the other thing that sunlight, like absence of sunlight, is going to cause? Sadness. Come on now. I know some of you, I lived in England for 10 years, so I'm allowed to comment on the absolute lack of sunlight that was in my life living in England. I got to tell you something. How many of you have found that during the seasons when the sun is kind of not so available, that it's just a tiny little bit harder to be happy? Who's found that? A little bit or a lot? No question about it. By the way, let's try the next thing here. How many of you found when you're a little bit less happy, you tend to eat more garbage? Anybody find that one by any chance? Anybody notice that one? So hold on. Did I just show you that if you get enough sunlight, you might eat less garbage? Yeah. So I want to focus on that you work on getting these needs met, that you work on getting your need for air, water, sleep, sunlight, movement, nutrients, that you get these needs met, that you really focus on them. I also want you to think about something else that you really need, and that is connection with people and even pets, but real connection. This somehow has become the era of isolation. I mean, hell, even before COVID, it was becoming the era of isolation. It was becoming the era of screens and screen connection and Zoom calls and all that kind of stuff. And all the COVID pandemic did was amplify what was already happening. And by the way, I'm grateful for Zoom when you think of something like the pandemic. I am grateful that we were able to continue to communicate and get some level of connection. But let me just tell you something. I was already going through a bit of a separation when this all started. And my wife and my little girl got trapped inside America during the pandemic. And so I was at home completely alone for 4 months. I don't even have pets. So I was alone for 4 months. Now I'm fairly introverted. So for the first week of this, it was like party central in my house. I'm dancing naked in the living room. It was fine. I liked it for about a week. But by day 8, I didn't like it anymore. I was alone. By day 9, yes, Ruth, I'm an introvert. Don't let my stage performance convince you of something else. The fact is that I was feeling really, really down. And then I had a really weird thing happen. First thing is that I just started reaching out to my friends and having Zoom calls and WhatsApp calls and what have you. And I found that was helpful, but it was like taking supplements instead of eating real food. You understand? It can be useful, it can be powerful, but never going to be as good as the real food. The calls were good supplements. And then one day I started developing a problem with one of my knees. And it was really painful. And I found out that there was a local French osteopath. And she was apparently doing osteopathic work here in Cabarete on the beach and stuff like that. And it was, now we'd been in isolation for about 3 months, and slowly but surely people were starting to connect again. And so I contacted this osteopath on WhatsApp, and I booked her to come to my house. And she would be like the first human being that I saw, right? Like, okay, I saw the delivery guy coming from Amazon every now and again, but he stood 15 feet over there. I had to leave my packages in the sun for 10 minutes because Fauci told me I had to do that, and whatever. You guys all remember what I'm talking about. But now a real human being is coming into my house, and she comes into my house and she sets up her massage bed, and I lay down on the bed, and she comes over, and like many times a chiropractor and osteopath, one of the first things they'll do is they'll put their hands on your hips just to kind of feel where your alignment is relative to your spine. And she took her hands and she put them on my lower back, and I'm lying with my face through the hole, in the massage bed, and suddenly tears are pouring out of my eyes and dropping on the floor below me. And I'm not crying, I don't think, but I am. I feel this welling up of emotion in me. I'm just telling you the story, and I've got goosebumps because it was and all it was that a human being was touching me for the first time in months. And so I want to tell you right now, go out and get a massage, go to buddy yoga classes, hug your family and kiss them, play with your dogs and cats, hold hands with your friends, touch and be touched, be a community. We need that more than ever. And what I'm saying to you is, if you go through this list of needs that we've just talked about, and you systematically create a plan for meeting those needs, you will find that your cravings reduce. They have less power over you. It doesn't mean they won't be there, but it'll be like this. It'll be more like this. You're driving along here. This is for my Canadian friends. You're driving along, and there's a Tim Hortons over there, and you've got a couple of spare minutes because you're early for the appointment and it's cold outside, and Tim Hortons has the coffee and the donuts. And this is what it's like when you're already a little empty. And by the way, for those of you who need this translated, Dunkin' Donuts, Krispy Kremes, or whatever the equivalent is in your country around the world. And so you're driving along, and suddenly you go, Tim Hortons is over there. You got to get a Tim Hortons, man. You got to go over and get yourself a honey cruller and a maple filled. And they have soup over there too. So it's justifiable. And suddenly you find yourself pulling into Timmy's, and you don't even know you've done it. You don't even know. Who here has eaten some food that they didn't even decide to eat? Who has eaten food that they did not decide to eat? No kidding. Who's been in a drive-thru and wondered who was driving the car? Who's ever done that one? Right? It's insane. And so then all of a sudden, the way it is now, when you've satisfied your needs, you're driving along, and then you have this experience just like I had. This is exactly the experience I had. This is a true life experience. I moved back to Halifax, Nova Scotia, where I grew up as a kid. And I'm driving down Shabukto, but it doesn't matter because you don't know where the street names at all. But I'm still driving down this street. And it's the very same street that I used to walk down on my way to and from high school for years of my life. And there's Tim Hortons over there. And I'm looking at that Tim Hortons, and I see it, and I'm driving along. I come to a red light. Tim Hortons is there. Now, I have not eaten in a Tim Hortons in years of my life. That food is long gone from me. And in Vancouver, I've driven past many Tim Hortons, and I don't even notice they're there. But this isn't just Tim Hortons. This is the Tim Hortons. It's the one from high school. This is where we went when we won the hockey game. This is where we went when we lost the hockey game. This is where we went when we came home from school. This is, I mean, it's the Tim Hortons. Of course I'm going to stop there, right? That's what my voice said in my head. No kidding. I'm at the traffic light. Eric, founder of WildFit, driving up to Tim Hortons. And this voice comes into my head and goes, there's a Tim Hortons over there. And I'm like, I turned to look to the food devil and go, what the hell are you talking about? Look, this devil on my shoulder telling me about, what the hell are you talking about? And then the devil goes, I know you're thinking it's crazy, but they got honey crullers and they got maple filled donuts. And I'm in my car actually laughing my ass off. Like, I am not literally laughing my ass off. For those of you who misuse the word, I still have my ass. It's okay. But I mean, I'm really laughing. I'm really seriously laughing. And then pretty soon the little food devil, he starts laughing because he knew it was never going to happen. But the reason it was never going to happen is that I was full nutritionally, emotionally. I didn't even have the craving. So when the devil tried to hijack it, it wasn't there to be hijacked. Are you guys with me on this? So yesterday we talked about hear the craving. Understand the want, but identify the need and insert the need between the craving and the want. Done. That's reactive. Today, we're moving to proactive. And proactive is this. You start a campaign of starting your day nutritionally strong. You start your day nutritionally strong. So that doesn't mean you start your day with a bowl of Kellogg's cornflakes with honey drizzled over them or sugar or something like that. It means that you start with the important nutritional macros that you know are important to eat. Tell me in the chat, guys, what are some foods that humans must have, not want to have, but must have? You guys, some of you guys must know. What are some of the things we must have? So let's take a look at what people are going to say here. We say water, vegetables, fruit, protein, greens. Yuck to Kellogg's, I vote with that. Plants, protein, fruits, protein, eggs, broccoli. I think you guys are all nutritionists based on the answer here. Oh, wait. Somebody wrote bread. Monica, you don't need bread. Just stop that right now. There's no need for bread. Humans lived on this planet for a long time before bread came along. No need for bread. But there is a need for seasonally available fruits and vegetables. There is a need for healthy sources of protein. If you're not a vegetarian or vegan, of course, that can come from ethically raised, responsibly raised meat, fish, eggs, poultry, and so forth. And if you choose to be a vegan, then you go a different path. And maybe you look to legumes and other things to assemble the different amino acids that you need for your protein intake. But those are the things you need. And what I'm suggesting to you is that you start your day. That's the homework right now. That's it. Just tomorrow, start your day with a functional breakfast. No garbage carbs, no refined sugars and stuff like that. You can have that after. I'm not saying you got to give it up, but I'm saying start with a seriously responsible, functional breakfast. For those of you who are not vegans, I suggest, eggs are a great start to the day. Maybe some responsible, if you can get good quality, responsible bacon and that kind of stuff, go for it. If you're of the more vegetarian or vegan persuasion, you might want to start with some seasonal fruits and vegetables, that kind of stuff. You might want to have a variety of salad with different beans and legumes and that sort of thing. But I'm asking you to start your day by working on getting your needs met. And I want you to just notice, and I'm really curious to hear from you about this tomorrow, is how many of you notice that just by starting the day strong, that you notice your cravings are already just a little bit weak? Who's up for the experiment? I need to know who's in. All right, so it seems like a lot of you are in. I'm down for that. That's super excellent. All right, so with that in mind, I want to jump in. I don't even know how much time I've got left here, but I want to just see if I've got some questions coming up. I cannot keep track of the questions in the comments. It's way too fast. There's thousands of you from all around the world, but I am going to go to the Q&A feature here and see what I can find. Wendy, I can't answer technical questions there, so hopefully somebody from the team will tell you where to find the recordings. Here we go. Zoo X says, I love traveling, and food is a big part of many cultures. How can we enjoy cultural cuisines healthily? This is a great question. So in order to answer your question, I want to share an important principle from WildFit, and that is that there is a condition known as health debt, and there's a condition known as health wealth. And what I mean by that is that somebody who is suffering with some specific symptomology, they're carrying some extra weight, maybe they've got some blood sugar management problems. If they are leaning in that direction, they have some health debt. Somebody who is full of energy, hardly ever gets sick, is of the right height, weight proportions and all that kind of stuff, they don't have health debt. This is a very important thing. Somebody who has health debt, who eats non-functional food, is doing a lot more damage than somebody who's fundamentally healthy. And so this is a really difficult thing, because you can take a look at somebody over there who's fundamentally got a good metabolism, they're in a good health way, and you see what they're eating, and you think, well, look, that healthy person is eating that, and I can get away with it. No, they don't have debt, so they can get away with more. So one of the best ways to be able to travel and feel good about traveling and enjoying the cultural experience of food is to not have health debt in the first place. Very important. I went years without having any pizza or bread or any of that kind of stuff. And then I went to a Mindvalley event. I went to A-Fest in Sardinia. And I went to A-Fest in Sardinia. I was hanging out with some good friends, and they wanted to go for pizza. And I'm like, oh yeah, I don't eat pizza. And they're like, we're in Italy. We're not skipping pizza. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's go have a pizza. Now, I chose, because I choose not to eat dairy products, with the exception of butter here and there, I chose not to have cheese on my pizza, which, by the way, in Italy is perfectly normal, because slathering cheese on your pizza is not an Italian tradition. It's an American hijacking of the pizza. But in any event, you can see I have some emotions about that. But I ordered my pizza without cheese and I ate it. And guess what? I didn't have a major gluten reaction. I was fine. It didn't make me all sleepy. And I didn't end up with a bunch of cravings the next day. 2 reasons. 1, not in health debt. 2, not American wheat. That's another conversation for another day, but a much better, higher quality meat, or wheat, I should say. So then the next thing about your question about how do you enjoy like the cultural experiences, you make a decision about the difference between functional and non-functional foods, and you do your level best to focus on functional foods. So here's what I would say. You might think that traveling to a given country, that the only way to enjoy that country culturally is to eat all their bad foods. You're going to go to Italy, you got to have, you got to have pizza with the whatever, and you got to have your gelato and what have you. But on the other hand, you can go to a country and say, no, I don't want that. You can go to India, for example, and not eat deep fried chapatis. And you can eat gorgeous seafood. And don't be fooled into the idea that India is an entirely vegan or vegetarian culture. On the coastlines, almost none of them are vegetarian or vegan. They have a healthy balance. They're more flexitarian. But the point is that what you could do is say, I'm going to become a cultural food expert, and I'm going to find all the healthiest traditions from the country that I'm going to, not the least healthy. Tell me you can't travel to America and eat really well. No question you can. But tell me you go to America and you can eat in the most devastating way. Yeah, you can. Oh, and which one feels more American? Well, the devastating way. Why? Because they pump a lot more money into the advertising. So I hope that answers your question. Let's move on here. What's the main difference between any diet program and intermittent fasting? Well, intermittent fasting is really just a duplication of a traditional human pattern. And it was not a human pattern that was ever done by willpower. In other words, our humans never intentionally didn't eat. I actually asked the Hadza chief one day, I've asked him if people ever go on a diet. And I also asked him if there's anybody in their culture that just chooses not to eat meat. And both questions to him were totally insane. They were completely insane notions, because of course food is so scarce for them that there would never be a moment where they're like, oh, a moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips. I'm not doing that. They don't have that. They don't have that. But they did have intermittent fasting because nature imposed it upon them. Nature imposed intermittent fasting upon them by simply making food unavailable at times. The rains didn't come, the drought came in. Now you'd be into full-on fasting, not just intermittent fasting. The other thing is that hunting, for example, is a major energy expenditure. And so you don't spend all day eating 3 meals a day. You spend all day hunting, you get something, you eat your fill, and you're probably done eating for the day. And that's also where the idea of the OMAD, or 1 meal a day, comes from. So intermittent fasting and 1 meal a day can be effective systems, but they are terrible to undertake if you're malnourished and if you haven't taken the steps to get properly nourished in the first place. Fasting is often held as this unbelievable panacea of health recovery. And there are all kinds of, in my opinion, unethical health recovery places that take people and put them straight into fasting. It is a terrible idea to do any kind of fasting if you're already malnourished. Please hear me about that. When we take people through WildFit, we do run them through an optional fasting track, but not until we've made sure they're well nourished. Like, it's just a bad idea. So Shyam, I hope that answers your question. Let's see here. I see a bunch of you asking about intermittent fasting. I'm done with that for now, but let's see here. Okay, Grace says, can I eat an egg daily? Will it increase my cholesterol level? So first thing I'm going to say very briefly is everything that you've ever been taught about cholesterol is wrong. I'm sorry, just the way it is. I don't want to have a long conversation about that right now. I'm just going to tell you that the whole cholesterol myth is a myth that was designed to sell statins and other drugs and so on. Don't worry about that anymore. If you want to go into a deeper conversation about that, a great place to start is the book, A Big Fat Surprise. It's a phenomenal book. It will teach you two things. It will teach you about the truth about fat generally, but it will also teach you about how food research has been hijacked to manipulate us in the most incredible way. Now, Grace, about eggs. Eggs are a normal, historical human food in every sense of the word. No question about that. Now, the one challenge is that even our human ancestor, or even our earliest human ancestors, would not have had access to eggs every single day. So I don't think that there's anything other than air and water that you're supposed to have every single day. But having eggs on a regular basis, in my opinion, no problem whatsoever. If somebody could please put a link to The Big Fat Surprise and Nina, and I can't think of her last name right now, just to make sure that they can find it. I know some of you have had the recommendation from me before. The other thing, Grace, very quickly about eggs, you are not simply what you eat. You are what you eat eats. And so what that means is that if your chickens are corn fed, then you may as well be eating corn. And that's not ideal. So you want, as best possible, free range, cage free eggs that are eating what they're supposed to be eating and not what they're fed very often in feedlots. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. Marty, can you give a brief reason why magnesium affects cravings? I think I touched on this a little bit earlier today and a bit yesterday, but here's basically a short version. You need magnesium. It does a number of different things. It plays an important role in the immune system. It has a huge amount to do with muscle health, and it also affects your ability to sleep. So let's imagine somebody's running low on magnesium. First thing is the body is going to say, oh, I'm low on something, go eat. Right? So it's going to create a generalized craving. Our bodies don't have so much cravings for specific foods, except now when they've been hijacked, because food was so seasonally available. It'd be useful to make an early human crave a food that just wasn't there. So you're running low on magnesium, you get a generalized feeling, go eat, because you need to go get some magnesium. But then the other problem is that if you aren't sleeping very well, then you're also going to get an increased craving, in this case, probably for carbohydrates. And so magnesium itself can be a direct cause of craving if you're low on magnesium, but then also by negatively impacting your sleep, it can be an indirect cause of magnifying your carb cravings as well. Marty, I hope that helps. Let's see here. Okay, Saul says, if we understand correctly, there are two types of cravings, the ones that are triggered by a real need, misinterpreted by brain, the others that are created by operative conditioning to link to an emotional state or an event or what have you. Yes, you do understand well, except what I would suggest to you is that they're not two different things, they're stages. So most really powerful cravings, for example, the hijacked kind, are built on the foundation of a good instinctual craving. That's the problem. That's actually the problem. So you've got one real craving, and then they hijack that craving and put it on top. Now, the challenge is the craving could be an emotional craving. You might be craving a hug. They hijack that and told you chocolate could solve the problem. So it's not that they're two separate things. It's that they're phases. There's the actual need that your body has, and then there's the hijack craving. And this is why when you eliminate the need by satisfying your needs, the hijacking is harder to do, and you experience those cravings in a much softer or milder way. Margarita says, what happens when you want to punish yourself with food, eating what you know will make you sick? So this is a challenging thing. This is a very challenging thing, and you're really talking about either a full-blown eating disorder or an up-and-coming eating disorder. And we don't really have time to go so deeply into eating disorders. What I will tell you, though, is this one thing. One of the most incredible side effects that we have found from WildFit, having had over 50,000 people and 130 people do it, so we've seen a lot now. And one of the things I can tell you is that there's a live public poll that probably about 1,000 some odd people have done, just a voluntary live public populated poll. In other words, the people put the answers in. And the third highest reported benefit of completing WildFit is an increased sense of positive well-being. In other words, I'm happier. I feel better. That is the third highest reported benefit. Anybody who did WildFit, who had mood swings, say, for example, of the hormonal or menstrual kind, or just generally mood swings, how many of you found that you were generally happier and that your mood swings were better under control once you got your nutritional relationship right? depression gone, that kind of stuff. And by the way, let me know if any of you came off antidepressants. And if you did, I hope you did it responsibly. Take a look, Margarita, at the notes, because what you'll see in the notes is that people are saying, yeah, I felt happier. My depression went away. Guess what? If you're trying to punish yourself, there's an emotional problem. So once again, by getting your needs met, you'll find the emotional problems are not as intense. And therefore, things like self-harming, eating to hurt yourself, binge eating are less likely to occur. That said, I also recommend getting like proper coaching or proper psychological help if that's happening a lot in your life or in somebody's life. Let's see here. Who's next? Do I even have time for next? Let's see. Bianca, I think I've got like 6 minutes left or something. Is that, and you probably need some wrap up time, right?
6 more minutes.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Can you explain why it's harder to be a vegan? Oh man, you really want me to go full controversy today, don't you? All right. I'm going to do it though. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it in less than 6 minutes. It's harder to be vegan because the choice to become vegan is the choice to break away from human history. It's the choice to say, despite the fact that humans have eaten this way for literally millions of years, and that we have evolved certain nutritional dependencies upon that lifestyle, I am going to do something different. I'm going to do that because I believe it's better for the environment, which is an incorrect myth. And we can talk about that another day. I'm going to do it because I think it's better for my health. That's just outright wrong. And then I'm going to do it because it's better for the animal. Okay, you got me there. The animal doesn't have to die if you don't eat it. So that's another conversation for another day. Now, the reason it becomes harder is that a lot of people ask vegans and vegetarians all the time, well, where are you going to get your protein from? And then they're proudly going to announce to you that fruit has as much protein in it as mother's milk. So it's plenty protein enough. Only the problem is that misunderstands what protein is. Protein is not a thing. Protein is a category of things. Protein is a category of complex molecules that do various jobs in your body. For example, how many of you already knew this? Insulin is a protein. By the way, if you say you already knew this, how many of you knew this because I told you this? Because most people don't know this, right? They don't know this. How about this? Antibodies. Who here is interested in making good antibodies at the moment? Anybody curious about making good antibodies? Antibodies are proteins. They are proteins. So in order for us to understand why this can be a little bit more challenging for vegans, what we need to understand is that it's not protein that you need. It's all of the amino acids, 20 of them. We manufacture 9 of them as long as we're getting the other 11 and other nutrients. So we can manufacture 9 of them. The other 11, we can manufacture 11. The other 9 we must consume. We must consume. And there is no plant material anywhere that has them all in it as a holistic offering. None. It doesn't exist. And yet, animal products come complete. They come complete with all of, in a sense, animals are amino acid aggregators. They go out and they eat various plants. They take the various amino acids and they assemble them into whole and complete proteins. And so when you eat an egg or a piece of fish or what have you, if assuming you're not vegan and that's okay with you, then you are getting whole and complete proteins. And by the way, how many of you have noticed this? How many of you have noticed that if you sit down with a plate of pasta, you can eat the whole plate of pasta, still be hungry and want some dessert. But if you sit down with a slice of fish or a piece of steak and a broccoli, you're just done. You're full. Has anybody noticed that you're more satiated by that? Right. That's why it's a little bit more difficult for vegans. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be a vegan. I happen to believe that optimal health is attained by being more flexible in your approach. I will always say that if you become ideological about your approach to nutrition, then you will allow your health to suffer at the footsteps of your ideology. And that is not ideal. And what we want to do is be more flexible in our approach and satisfy our needs the best possible way. And if somebody wants to be vegan for whatever reason, then what they need to do is be much more conscious of the sources of amino acids that they have because they're not getting them easily. So I hope, did I do that in under 6 minutes? I did it in 4 minutes, you guys. All right. That's the last question for the day. I just want to remind you your homework. Your homework is to become conscious of satisfying your needs. So what that means is for the rest of today and tomorrow, I want you to think about your need for air, sunlight, water, and all that kind of stuff. And particularly tomorrow, I want you to eat as functional a breakfast as you can before you eat any of the garbage. And let's see if getting some air and water and a functional breakfast and get outside and get some sunlight, if you just do as much of that as you can, let's see if we can't bring your cravings down by at least 30%. Tomorrow, I'm going to ask you, have you noticed your cravings down? And if so, by what percentage? Who's up for the homework? Bianca, it looks like they're in.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, Eric. Again, I love the way that you are going straight to the problems, to the core of the problem in the most honest and direct way. And this is everything that we need. That's what I love about everything that was going on today and even yesterday. I'm grateful for it. So thank you so much. Guys, how did you like the session? I want to read it in the chat. Let's see. If you loved the session, send some hearts in the chat box for Eric. He's been speaking for an hour, guys, over here. So let's give a warm close to this session. You've been hearing about the homework. So everything that you need to do until tomorrow, don't forget to share it in the group about how you felt about today's session. And just for the people who joined a little bit later and maybe didn't get the first part of the session, we will be doing a giveaway in the last 3 days of the challenge. And the more you will be active in the group, the more chances you have of winning the giveaway. The prizes we will award are 2 memberships and the certification, and they are worth $499, $799, and $3,000 value. So this being said, again, friendly reminder, be active. I'm going to go straight into the group today, later in the evening. Do your homework, inspire and impact as many people as you can. And we will be choosing the winners very, very soon. My friends, thank you so much for joining us today, and have a beautiful and peaceful morning or evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.